my successful paintings, because I saw too many people do that. You know, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to find vocabulary of my own, and it's like I consciously often made bad paintings, like a painting that was too red or something. But when my daughter was born, when I was married in college, my daughter was born, and when I moved to New York, I was kind of housebound. My marriage broke up. I was working in the daytime, and I had to stay in every night. And so I started going back into the math books, Max's math books, and I began taking up where I'd left off. And there was a certain point where I realized, I mean, and it wasn't for a long time that I had an aha moment where I knew how to use the information I had learned. When Max Dane at Black Belt asked me to take his class, I told him I was completely unprepared I didn't have the background for it, because people came from all over the world just to study with him. And he said, what you need to understand is mathematics for artists, and that he said, nature's written in numbers. And I didn't know what to do with it. You know, I was trying to be a painter, and yet I was so much more fascinated by the creativity of the math classes, because it had occurred to me in Montreal that most artists find a way to paint and they repeat themselves their whole life with variation. Even great artists like Monet. No, it's not something I'm putting down. It's just not me. And I thought, you know, because I'm so inquisitive that I knew that I wouldn't do one thing.
There's a lot of change in the movement in your work. So at what point do you kind of feel like you're maybe...
I don't have the answer to that. One thing leads to another. It's not that the work changes. The thought is continuous. It's the same thinking, different pages on the same kind of thinking. Things happen to one in life, you know, and you don't quite know what they are at the moment. But in 2007, a friend sent me an email with a picture of Saturn, and sitting on top of Saturn was a perfect hexagon. And I thought, well, how the hell did it get that way? You know, what is it? And Saturn, as you know, is gas. I mean, as far as we know, there's no solidity to it. And I began to think that, and as I said, I'm not a scientist, but this is just a guess. Now, there was a gaseous explosion that contained matter that spewed out of Saturn, and that forces in the atmosphere made it into this pattern. Perhaps the electromagnetic field, you know, was coming at it from different ways, and that made me think about, you know, neutron stars and stars exploding, and I wanted to think about the possible topological geometric form that would take.
What are you working on now?
I'm trying to understand visually the celestial sequence of, the explosion of the star, what happens in its geometry before it gets to the explosion point. So this group will be celestial sequence.
Cool. Thank you.
Are you a painter?
Yeah.
Yeah. And is your work abstract?